while, but like riding a bike, it shouldn't be too hard to figure it all out. Yep, it looks like I'm live. That's great. Let's make sure this is all set up proper. I know it's been a bit, everybody, but hopefully you can bear with me for just a bit while I get everything
Match
situated.
point.
This has gone on.
Okay, there we go. Yeah, I think we are definitely live. Let's double check this. We are definitely live. Yep. All right. I'm gonna just say it. I know I've been gone for a while. You're probably wondering what the heck is this format? How come we can't see you and your bonnet and stuff? I decided when I was gonna come back in the fall that I was gonna change some stuff up. On Tuesdays, we're gonna probably talk more mental health, though I'm gonna delve into a little bit of politics today too, just because, that's the core of my format. That's what I started on Twitch for. That's always going to be kind of a focus for me. But I'm adding a new element because back in February, Greg and I invested in a 3D printer. It's an Elegoo Centauri Carbon. We got the full family package. It comes with different plates. It's really nice. As you can see up in the upper right corner, I have YouTube shorts that I've been doing off and on since June, showing some of the stuff that I can print out. There's a Magic the Gathering box. Let's see, what else can I showcase? Because I'm really, really happy with the quality of the prints. We've got Junichi and Mau Mau from the Apothecary Diaries. We've got the Ecto one. This is from the 2016 movie. I also printed out this authentic Ecto one. And you might be going, well, Cal, what about the camera thing? Why aren't we seeing you? Well, you're going to get the craft view because I will be crafting 3D stuff and I will be painting them. Whether it's gifts, whether it's just stuff for friends. I plan to get my friends stuff for giveaways because a lot of them have really cute icons that I can now 3D print for them. I have a studio, Tripoli Studios. I saw them on YouTube and they're pretty decent. They could take an image and literally turn it into 3D figures. So I've been working with that. Hey, Balor, it's really good to see you. We have got a box coming for you to True. We did not forget about you. It's going to have copies of the second book, which your character is starring in it. It's going to have some 3D prints that we thought you and True might like. I'm really excited about this. And I know this is a new format, but the only way I was going to get through coming back was to change things up. One of the things that I have learned over the last couple of months taking a mental health break is not only setting hard boundaries for myself, but also just putting other stuff first. I'm working with Axiom on the second book. Well, first book for him. Third book for me, technically. It's gonna be an amazing fantasy adventure novel. He's really excited about getting it done. I'm really excited about helping him. This figure that I'm gonna paint today while we talk and go over different topics is of his Axiom Wolf figure. His channel is right on Twitch under Axiom Wolf. Our friend Curie Bell designed this for him, and I'm gonna paint it today while we talk. And like I said, I'm just happy to be back. No more health scares. My calcium levels are finally normal. My iron levels are finally normal. I went to the doctors right before my 48th birthday, got my blood tested. I am good. The only thing that I had to learn in the time that I took to just decompress, get away from all the mental stress, is to start from scratch again, learn my boundaries, because one of the mistakes I made when I started to really grow on YouTube was trying to establish parasocial relationships, and it burnt me. And as somebody who doesn't like to get burned because I normally like to keep to myself, I had to learn the hard way that, yeah, you can like people entertainment wise, but just keep it professional. Not everybody's meant to be friends. I made enough actual friends on Twitch, like Ballard and her husband True. And me and my husband have interacted with so many nice people here on Twitch that it just felt right to get back to my streaming roots on Twitch. Of course, this will be re-uploaded to YouTube the next day so that people know, yes, I'm back to creating content. I don't know if or when I'll be going live on YouTube again. While it was fun, I'm no longer doing the subject matter that I used to do on YouTube. It may lose me more subs. I don't know. I don't care. I personally feel like I need to talk about topics that I truly care about and I'm passionate about. And I can do that while combining my new form of crafting and painting. And so we're going to get ready to get started. And we'll just bop this distraction off for a bit and get this one up. Let's turn off camera 4. And move you over here. I promise it will get better. We're going to pop up Axiom's art reference too as we paint him. As you can see, it's a basic character, but it's really well detailed. Carrie Bell did an amazing job. So I'm going to have fun painting this while we go over stuff that will probably be more for Friday's format. I'm hoping to keep Tuesdays about just regular slice of life stuff. But I've been holding it in for months now, and I got to get some of this out of my system. So we're going to get started with this from MS. I'm not calling it its new name. I know they're changing their name. It's stupid. I'm sick of these companies doing that. MSNBC has a thing about the California judge finding that the current wannabe dictators' release of federal guard troops in California is illegal. So we are going to play this for a bit while I get the paints ready.
Let's get right to our breaking news. A major court loss for the Trump administration. A federal judge says President Trump's use of the National Guard in Los Angeles was illegal. The judge ruling the deployment violates the Posse Comitatus Act, and he warns President Trump's calls to send troops into other American cities would amount to a national police force with the president as its chief. Before this ruling, Trump teased that Chicago is next on his list for troops. The administration is already planning to surge federal resources for immigration arrests there. Chicago's mayor has taken preemptive steps to try and rein in any federal action President Trump takes. For more on all of this, we are joined by NBC's senior Homeland Security correspondent Julia Ainsley and immigration attorney Alan Orr.
And before we even get to this interview, because honestly right now, I can't believe I'm living in a time where we have a sitting president who is willing to utilize our National Guard troops as a police force. You know, mind you, we already have police. We've been at police state by state. But, you know, old dumbass, he wants to utilize our National Guard troops to do this. This is the world we're living in right now, and it is beyond ridiculous. And I'm going to get started with the little ball right in front because this orb brush is a little bit stiff. Let's loosen you up just a little bit. I'm using both mine and Action's brushes. He has these thicker brushes, which is good for like big details. And then I have the mini brushes that'll be good for the finer details. But as I was saying, we're in a time where a sitting president can legitimately deploy guard troops as a police force. Because, you know, he doesn't trust states to not criminalize American citizens who might happen to look like they don't belong here. I can't believe we are actually in these times, but then again I can, because since January, he has been speed running several bad ideas, which is why I invested in a 3D printer, which is why I'm still doing things to make sure that we have offshore currency, legally, of course, in order, in case we ever have to just decide to up and get out of here, my family can. As I said, he was speed running all the bad in the first place. So I'm not shocked by this National Guard thing because he is so determined to draw a heavy line against people who have immigrated here and so-called real Americans. Even though for me, as I've said, as I've helped people, including a neighbor, with paperwork and getting over here, to me, anybody who wants to put in the work to become naturalized citizens here are just as real as people like me who were born and raised on here. But one of the things I found funny while I was on my break, and I'll get the interview started again in just a moment here as I finish this ball thing, and I got a little purple on his arms, but that's okay. We're going to color this whole figure. Either way, what I learned is that people who want to do stuff like this have no idea how much it's going to turn against them. So I just sat back and I watched. But I also watched a lot of dumb people spreading misinformation about African Americans, not African immigrants. Mind you, we have immigrants here from the islands, from Africa, that aren't really covered by what I'm about to drop on some of yous. Because I've watched the TikTok compilations on YouTube about this, and there have been a lot of people that are like, black people are next. Nope, get it right. Black Americans who are born here, who have more than enough proof. I got my birth certificate and stuff because I know we may end up in a papers, please. I am protected by the 13th and 14th Amendments that ratified, even though the 13th Amendment also allowed for my people to get locked up. Not a lot of people can say that, though. A lot of you who think you're safe today because you think you're adjacent enough. And so they call it ICE on you in your private schools and stuff because you think you're a model enough to where you won't feel the brunt of this. A lot of you who are playing games with thinking that it's only going to be black and brown citizens rounded up by ICE, who ignore the fact that they're even going after kids as young as 7 with this nonsense. You just wait. Then They Came For Me is not just a poem, it is a prophecy. And some of you are willy-nilly giving into this prophecy due to fear and hatred stoked up by our broken fourth estate as well. And what really irks me about all of this was how preventable this was. But I digress. Let's get back to the video while I try to...
So, Julia, what else are we hearing from this judge? How big of a deal is this ruling?
Well, it's a big ruling when you think about how Trump wants to use the National Guard next. He's already toyed with the idea of possibly sending them to Chicago, something that leaders in that state of Illinois have pushed back on, as well as the mayor.
And I've got a backup video about that. I used to get it a lot when I was on Twitter, which I deleted my Twitter. I'm no longer doing any of that nonsense. I don't like Elon Musk. I don't like that whole Grok bot nonsense. So I happily yeeted my Twitter. And I will not be looking back. I'm an investor in both... Well, I'm currently an investor in Spoutable. And I also use Blue Sky. So if you're looking for Kalari on those, that's where you'll find me. Pretty much done with Twitter. It was worth it. I really don't miss it. It's been months. And I feel a lot less stressed. So getting back to what I was talking about, I have another video that I'll show to coincide with how upset some of the National Guard men and women who don't want to be used as a police force are being about this. But I'm going to play this interview again while I get this ready and do some little color corrections because I got some purple on his armor that I don't want there.
Of Chicago. And this is also something that we've seen in D.C., although he did have more authority. He has authority over the D.C. National Guard because of its position as the capital city. But since Trump started deploying the National Guard in L.A., which he said was to quell unrest after protests there that started because of ICE arrest, there's been a question about whether or not the president has the authority to call in the state's National Guard. Governor Gavin Newsom said he did not, and whether or not how long he can keep them there and what kind of duties they can be performing. It is again.
The National Guard is supposed to be deployed during times where it is a national or state emergency. The National Guard normally is there to quell actual riots or dangers to communities. Now, that idiot might try to say, well, because they're not letting us just round up the immigrants, that is a national emergency. And a lot of people do not agree. A lot of people do not want to see military, whether they're National Guard or other, turned on American civilians and turned on our soil. Now, I will get into the history of some things in further cast because this isn't the first time a sitting president has done that. In the 80s, and a lot of people don't know this story, so I will definitely get all the information so I can tell a detailed thing. Because I think next Tuesday I want to broach the topic of wokeness because I've lurked and heard a lot of stupid things about that too that I just want to clear up. There we go, color corrected that. The thing is, it's not the first time the federal government overstepped their bounds and went after innocent people or even people that might have been accused of doing something they thought wasn't right. And the results were devastating. A whole community literally ripped apart because our government decided that they could just do so and literally drop bombs on a neighborhood. But I will definitely get all the information about that because I think people would be surprised how not shocking this is to people who are constantly the targets of such ridiculousness. But some of you's fucked around and you're going to find out just the hard way what it means to have a president, a sitting president, overstep his bounds the way Trump is.
It's this law known as Posse Comitatus, a late 1800s law that said that the military cannot be used to enforce domestic law. It's the same reason why military can't be arresting immigrants when they cross the border. That would be enforcing a domestic law within the borders of the United States. And so in this case, this judge is saying that this was a violation to send National Guard to California. And so now that will be a big question going forward for the Trump administration. Do they continue to push? We've seen them push back court orders in the past. They will likely appeal this. And will they then decide that there is some other justification for sending National Guard to Chicago? One last thing, Anna, what was already so unusual about the idea of sending the National Guard to Chicago is they said they were doing it to crack down on crime there. That's really going a step further than what they did in Los Angeles, where they said it was to respond to unrest. The National Guard has been used in the past to respond to unrest. Sometimes that didn't go very well, like in the 70s during Vietnam protests.
Because when you send troops in against civilians and they're trained to see civilians as the enemy, it's going to lead to bad.
Yes, but that has been used in that way. In Chicago, to call them in preemptively already raised legal questions. So after a judge is saying they weren't used correctly in California, it's unclear how the White House might pivot or if they'll change their course with the actions they have planned for Chicago.
Well, let's get that answer.
The thing is, even if they want to see if he'll pivot, he is so used to not being viewed as wrong that I don't see a pivot happening at all. And that's the sad part. Okay. So we're doing the inside of the ears in black. I know it's black with a little bit of silver inside, but we could change it up just a little bit. Greg is not going to mind. He's just excited that I'm painting this for him. And I'm going to have to do more than one coat, as it seems. I'm really excited because I have a ton of prints to paint for a friend's birthday. I'm surprising him with his One Piece characters, a couple of boats, some of his favorites, so I will be painting those as well. Let's listen for a bit more of this, and then I want to get to Chicago's response, Illinois' response to this overstepping of boundaries.
We can from NBC News senior White House correspondent Gabe Gutierrez, who is joining us as well. What is the reaction there, Gabe, from the White House to this judge's ruling? And does it force them to change their approach to Chicago and other cities?
Well, hi there, Anna. Good morning. Well, we are still waiting that reaction from the White House. They are certainly digesting this ruling at this point. So we do not have that immediate reaction just yet, but it is unlikely, Anna, that the administration will back down on some of these other plans. They have been talking about sending federal resources to other cities, as you've been pointing out, including Chicago, Baltimore, New York City. And the president this morning even doubling down on his plans for Chicago, saying on social media that he will clean up that city if he has to. Now, the question is, Anna, how exactly will local officials continue to respond over the weekend? You had Chicago's Democratic Mayor Brandon Johnson signing that executive order prohibiting local resources, local police from collaborating with federal law enforcement and federal immigration officials. Now, this afternoon, we're expecting a news conference from Governor J.B. Pritzker to talk more about what might come next from his end. Right now, we do not have a timetable on when the White House may deploy additional federal resources to Chicago, but it does appear to be imminent. Over the weekend,
Introducing McAfee Plus, all-in-one protection that goes beyond your devices. It protects you, your identity, and privacy. With McAfee Plus,
we will not be giving McAfee Plus any free advertising. There we go.
He believed it would be days, not weeks, before the Trump administration deployed more resources there. And from what we understand, there was that naval base just outside of Chicago that would be used for logistical support. But again, it is unclear with this breaking news of this court ruling in Los Angeles how it will impact these plans. That's certainly a question we'll be asking the White House throughout the day on.
So, Alan, how significant is this ruling from the judge in your perspective? And what happens if the administration doesn't follow it?
Well, I think it's very significant. And it's not just California, because it also has been resounded in D.C. about the use of these troops with regards to local laws. So it isn't so much that the president was pushed back, but that the Constitution and the way our government has always run is being upheld. And it's very significant. So the Trump administration may push, and of course, it doesn't fix the harm that has already been done by the troops or all the illegal actions that have taken place. So we're not exactly making California whole. We're just stopping a process that's in the middle of it. And the administration is likely to push back. But it's a very expensive pushback in this case because Chicago is 3 times bigger than D.C. And he really has not really addressed all the crime in D.C., just some of the wards in D.C., not the whole area.
And you can only guess what wards. Hey, Grandemir, it is good to see you, dear. What irks me about this is the fact that it's blatant at this point.
Not a positive result for us. It's costly. The National Guard is away from their jobs, which is costing other companies money and our readiness for military readiness. And it's also just not a good look.
It isn't.
Well, and of course, in D.C., it's a little bit different because the president has some authority over the National Guard there. We're not talking about a more sovereign state or a city within a different state like we're seeing with L.A. in California or Chicago and Illinois. Julia, do we have any sense of a timeline for Chicago? Could this ruling hold that operation up when we're talking about moving in the immigration crackdown that you've mentioned?
I don't think it'll stop the immigration crackdown, Anna. We know that Border Patrol is already working to set up a naval base just north of the city as a staging area where we understand that some federal agents from ICE, Border Patrol, and DOJ components like ATF and DEA can sleep as they're surged into this city. We know at least 200 agents have already been tapped to go, and we expect more. Now, National Guard was supposed to support that mission as well as an overall crackdown on crime in Chicago. So the crime operation could.
All right.
Connectivity through Spectrum.
With all due respect to MSNBC, because the next thing has shown Chicago's response. Not that is my craft video. Chicago is not fond, let me tell you, of this overstep at all. And you really can't blame them at this point. So let's interact with that. And get
where there is a press conference taking place right now from veterans of National Guard's troops. Why? Because if you've been paying attention, President Donald Trump has been signaling that he would like to bring in National Guardsmen like he has in D.C. to Illinois, mainly Chicago. Okay. And so far, the governor of Illinois, the mayor of Chicago, they have pushed back on the notion, even after a violent weekend in Chicago, in which there were many people who were shot and some who died over the weekend as well. So we want to listen in to see what these individuals are saying here in Chicago. I just wanted to give a little bit of context before we just took the shot.
To deploy any military troops or National Guard units here in Chicago. There's absolutely no basis whatsoever. As Governor Pritzker and Mayor Brandon Johnson have forcefully expressed, such a deployment of troops is unnecessary, unconstitutional, illegal, and immoral. A bedrock principle embodied in the U.S. Constitution and U.S. law prohibits federal armed forces, including federalized National Guard units, from engaging in civilian law enforcement activities. That means policing. That means arrest, searches, detentions. Specifically, the Posse Comitatus Act, a federal law, prohibits the military and other armed forces from engaging in actions that exert compulsory powers over civilians. There are very limited circumstances in which President Trump can invoke and federalize the National Guard units over a governor's consent. And here our governor absolutely is not consenting. Those circumstances embodied in the Insurrection Act of federal law do not exist here. We are not witnessing, we are not experiencing any insurrections, rebellions, or domestic violence that prevents the enforcement or execution of laws here in the city of Chicago or the state of Illinois. There is no justification for the invocation of the Insurrection Act. The other way that President Trump could invoke the National Guard is to use the statute 10 U.S.C. 12406, and that is used to repel an invasion or rebellion that prevents the execution of the law. This was the provision that President Trump and his administration used to invoke California's National Guard. As you may know, this morning, District Court Judge Charles Breyer of the Northern District of California found that the use of troops in California violated the Posse Comitatus Act. The court also enjoined Secretary of Defense and the Department of Defense from deploying, ordering, instructing, training, or using the National Guard currently deployed in California and any military troops to execute the laws, including, but not limited to, engaging in arrests, apprehensions, searches, seizures, security patrols, traffic control, crowd control, riot control, evidence collection, interrogation, or acting as informants. The decision.
And just to pause right there, because I think people need to realize just exactly what this doofus wants to do with our National Guard troops. Even our police have to follow protocols and procedures. I say this because I have family who are officers, not in Chicago, never been. Heard it's a nice area for travel. Some places aren't, but it's the same for New York. But as people in my family will tell you, you can't just search and seize people without proper warrants, without proper paperwork. And this dum-dum wants to deploy our National Guard troops in a way that will not only illegally search and seize people on this weird-ass idea that people are harboring, and it's a sanctuary city, and all that other racist, bigoted garbage that he uses against law-abiding citizens who happen to have immigrated here on the hopes that they can find somebody who doesn't belong here. And it's beyond ridiculous. And I'm glad so many states are not just rolling over for this. Even California, though, I will have some thoughts on Friday about California and their governor, which may not make some people happy. But I told people last year when the Judas Caucus pulled one of the biggest blatant bullshit, I'm not happy with our party currently. I don't know what we're going to do, but currently I see the propping up of somebody who doesn't deserve it, and I'm not letting that go.
Decision by the federal court in California strongly corroborates what Governor Pritzker and Mayor Johnson have said. which is the deployment of National Guard units here in Chicago, is illegal, unwarranted, and unconstitutional. We should not be putting our military troops and our National Guard units in this position. They should not be put in a position where they are enforcing illegal orders that are against our civilian population. That is not what is supposed to happen here in the United States. It's a bedrock principle of constitutional law. With that, I sincerely hope that this does not occur and that we do not put our military troops and our National Guard units in this unconscionable position.
Exactly. And to add to that, because I watched Last Week Tonight with John Oliver, and it was, I believe, 2 or 3 episodes ago, where they showed the DC guards deployed and how they were harassing certain neighborhoods. And this brother, who was just on his stoop, minding his own business, asking them, what can I do for you? I am just on my own stoop, minding my own business. And how they awkwardly tried to explain why they were invading his neighborhood with their BS. This is what we have to look forward to, though. This is what all of you who thought you were voting for America signed up for. A literal dictatorship. But you don't want to hear it from my ass.
Thank you.
Okay, and now I'm going to ask all of our speakers to come up, answer your questions. One thing that come on up here, everyone, please. And you can shoot questions to whomever you want. Just one word to Governor Pritzker. File all the lawsuits that you want. The fact is, this president has shown over and over again he treats them like lousy pieces of paper. My friends behind me here have just outlined very concrete steps that Governor Pritzker can and must take right now. Lawsuits are pieces of paper to this clown in the White House. We need firmer action out of you, Governor Pritzker. With that, we'll take your questions.
I have a question for Daniel.
Sorry. Go for it, Daniel. Yep.
You asked for support from Governor Pritzker. What specifically do you mean? Are you talking about financial support, for lawsuits, or lawsuit support? What are you talking about?
First, to make clear, as Commander-in-Chief, speaking directly to those who are under his command, not to report if he is declaring these orders illegal. So that is one more thing specifically in word. Indeed, to then support with the massive legal team that he has as governor to support the individuals that do then refuse the orders, to do more than file a lawsuit in federal court, to actually support the individuals who comprise the Guard, making legal resources available to them, supporting the networks that are doing that work in connection with them.
Now, as you can see, this is a National Guard rally. These are guardsmen that do not want to be used as a police force against civilians over this nonsense. I don't want anybody trying to say, oh, this is just people stoking up stuff. This is people who understand our Constitution, understand our rights of life, that do not want their branch of the military to be utilized in such a ridiculous and asinine way.
Okay, so you're listening to them. They are very passionate in their stance when it comes to the possibilities of troops being brought into Chicago, into Illinois. It is very important to note that breaking news that came in just under 20 minutes or so, that a district judge has ruled now that the use of federal troops in Los Angeles is unlawful. And this came in again today. This is after the Trump administration used, if you remember back several weeks ago now, to have federal troops there in Los Angeles to conduct law enforcement operations. That federal judge ruling today that was not lawful. That U.S. District Judge Charles Breyer issued an order prohibiting troops from engaging in security patrols, riot control, arrest, searches, and crowd control. Now, here's the thing. The order does not take effect until September 12th to allow the Trump administration time to appeal. The judge gave the reasoning, said that the use of federal troops effectively created a, quote, national police force with the president as its chief and therefore violated law. So it's going to be interesting. The particular law in which the judge references here, I'm looking at it, goes back to 1878, which limits the military from being involved in civilian law enforcement unless Congress approves it or under circumstances, quote, expressly authorized by the Constitution. So that's going to be very interesting how things move forward based upon that ruling. Again, that is for Los Angeles. I do not believe that as I adjust this, I do not believe that can be used in the context of DC because, Sarah, if you remember, there was the ruling that took place maybe 2 or so months ago that limited those district judges to particular cases within the regions in which they were ruling on. So I do believe that this focuses in on Los Angeles. So the context behind it, though, you have what is taking place in DC, where you just had the mayor of DC say that there are some crime statistics that are significantly down since the troops went into DC. Mainly, I'm thinking about car break-ins. I believe the number was 63% since they've been there. So there's the argument now, is it working? What do you do beyond this if you're in other cities like in...
My argument is, what does that say about the police? This is supposed to be a pro-police party, the GOP. Yet you are literally telling the police on a state level and on a basic local level that they're incompetent to do their jobs. And yes, I'm stoking that. I'm sowing that discord because you can't read it any other way than that.
In Baltimore or Chicago or LA, and the president has put out that he is eyeing and wanting to do the same thing in DC there. We're hearing the pushback for those leaders in those communities. We'll see what happens now that this ruling has been put in place if other cities, other governors try to push for a similar kind of decision in their communities. Again, this ruling, though, this order does not take effect until September 12th because the judge wants to give the Trump administration time to appeal.
And that was a local news station out of Chicago that pretty much has reiterated what a lot of us know. That this is not only ridiculous, but it's not legal. Whether people want to accept it or not, whether people like it or not, it is not acceptable for a sit-in president to literally terrorize different states because he thinks his enemies are harboring people. I can't believe we live in these times. I can't believe I have to say stuff like this, but here we are. And I will definitely get into more political talk on Fridays because I feel like Fridays I can be just as relaxed and I'll have more stuff prepared. Today I just wanted to give a taste of what will be the format for now. It could change up, but for now, just to get back to being comfortable streaming, I am going to enjoy doing my painting while talking about this stuff. Now, to get back to why I took a break, because I realized that my last stream was that I need to apologize stream. And I know some people were probably confused by that. What did Cal need to apologize for? What happened? I don't even remember at this point. The last few months have been a blur. But I can tell you this much. I don't regret a lot of things. Whether people will agree with this or not, I had my fun on YouTube. I met people. I made the mistake in believing that people who I found entertaining were decent. and ended up realizing that I was wrong about that. I also ended up talking to certain people that I used to openly call friends, openly liked, because I realized that when I said I don't want to be in the middle of unnecessary drama, when I said that I need to put my health first, because as a lot of people knew, before I decided to start setting privacy boundaries, Greg and I were trying for a baby. Now we're going to keep a lot of that stuff to ourselves. We'll have to repair that, but it's okay. And I realized that somebody I really thought almost like a sibling couldn't understand the fact that I wanted to set that boundary. Couldn't accept the fact that I did not want to be in the middle of stuff after, and I take full blame for inserting myself into something that had fuck all to do with me. And I had to learn the lesson the hard way to just stay my ass out of stuff because it wasn't worth it in the long run. I still think that what I said wasn't wrong. I don't think people should do what they do, but that's the drama community for you. That is what they do. And if you're not willing to be a part of it, you need to bow out. And that's what I did. And this person who knew me, who should have known better, just could not help themselves to try to keep me involved. And they overstepped a hard boundary with me by trying to involve my partner in it. And I heard buzzing, especially before I yeeted Twitter. And I'm going to tell y'all, I don't care. If that person wants to go and try to expose stuff they think they know, if they want to go and talk shit, that's on them. This is the only time I will address the former friendships I had. Because honestly speaking, I honestly just don't care anymore at this point. The people that I used to talk to, I don't anymore. And that's what happens. As a Gen Xer, I've learned early on there's no such thing as permanence. So losing people that weren't meant to be in my life is just par for the course. I still talk to plenty of people I've met online. Still fostered plenty of fun friendships and relationships that I probably won't lose. These people have inspired me to keep writing. They are characters in the new book that got released just around last year. We're working on the audiobook for this. Hopefully it will not take as long as Axiom did, but a lot of that was my fault. I had no idea what entailed into going into it, and I'm so grateful to Apple Books. Had I not thought it was a scam when they first reached out to me via email, I probably would have had Axiom's audiobook done sooner. But it is fine. We have it now, and it sounds amazing. It is AI generated, but I think as a writer, I have come to accept that AI is going to be a large part of things like audiobooks and other things that we use in our medium. So instead of getting upset about it, I am just going to make sure that when my stuff is used with regards to AI, oh, I totally botched this nose. I'm going to have to, no I didn't. There we go. I just couldn't see the triangle at first. I'll put him back in just a moment. I had to get this up close because the finer details can be missed. But as I was saying, I'm going to have to fix that nose. As you can see, though, it's coming along. My whole goal for doing stuff like this is to get myself comfortable again with talking, chatting about topics I want, but also to get the double work I'm doing, because this isn't just for hobbies anymore. We actually made not deal per se, but agreement with a friend of ours who has a hobby shop to start placing figures. He's already set up a thing for the samples that we brought him. And things are moving along really nice, you know. I originally bought the 3D printer just as a hobby. And now I can use it to not only print stuff for people, custom orders, which we will be setting the shop up for that soon. We just got to get a feel for it still, because we got this printer in June of my birthday, right around my birthday, and it is a learning process. We've learned about filaments, we've learned about things like spaghettification. It's little things like this that I feel like once we get more of the hang of using the Elegoo printer, that we'll be able to comfortably print more stuff for people and do custom orders. So I did not want to set up a shop yet. Instead, what we're going to do is focus on putting stuff in our friend shop, do a little giveaway gifts. Like I said, we'll be printing out, and I don't know if I'm going to be painting all of these. Actually, I might have to paint some himself. But we'll be printing out stuff like this with his channel's mascot. Other friends, I'm going to get in contact with you if you want 3D prints of your mascots and you got a decent pick that I can use in the studio to change into a 3D figure. I will definitely let you hit me up for that. I think all in all, coming back is going to be fun because it's on my own terms. I'm no longer looking to team up, as sad as that sounds, unless Axiom wants to bring back the Gen X Sinners. Sinners was a good movie, though. Cynics, because we watched a lot of good movies, including Sinners, the new Superman, the Fantastic Four, and so many shows like Ironheart. We're currently watching the new Peacemaker. It has been really good for us to just enjoy geeky things while we can. Unfortunately, because of the tariffs, it's going to be a lot harder for collectors to get certain things. So you'll have people like me who can make custom orders. And I've been painting for a bit now. I'm going to move Axiom Wolf and show you the Zelda diorama that I've been working on. It's almost finished, as you can see. Just little details. And then the princess herself. Behind shot. And all this was 3D printed on our Elegoo. And then, like, finer details, I've had to use toothpicks. But it's stuff like this that I feel I can focus on while I'm not writing or when I'm not ranting and really calm me down. And thank you so much, Brandomir. I just feel like creative stuff is better for everybody right now. Having that creative outlet to escape to as the world feels like it's burning around us sometimes. And I say that from a very calm place. Actually, Wolf and I was lucky to get our place out here. It's calm. We're growing vegetables still. We've had ups and downs with that, but I was able to salvage a lot of plants. We've got green beans growing in. We've got peas growing in. Carrots are sprouting up. The tomato plant is robust and healthy, and our grape plant is growing well. I feel like all in all, we are doing a lot of good stuff to keep our minds occupied while things feel uncertain. And I'm not going to spend months pointing fingers, pointing the blame, because we all know who did what. We know the fence sitters who didn't vote. We know the people who went whole ham for MAGA. The only thing we can do is when we see things aren't right, like those National Guards troops who rally in right now in Illinois against being used as a police force, is to use our voices wisely, stand up against injustice, and fight the best way we can at the ballot box before that motherfucker tries to fuck with that. Because he's already trying to do an executive order to mandate states get rid of things like absentee and mail-in ballots, which is illegal, which while we currently have decent justices, hopefully will continue to remain illegal, but we don't know. And right now he has a full Senate and a House that could kowtow to some of his more ridiculous things. And while you see some people go, well, crime in D.C. is down because of his National Guard's appointment. Break-ins in cars are down. You know what would stop not completely, because there are always going to be those people that want to do that. But the need to rob like that, a stabler economy, stabler job set, which he inherited and in less than 6 months already started to fuck up with his terror speculation and his little penalties, including things like imports from other countries, which is going to give my small business a boost. Because like I said, I can craft custom figures for people just using a studio, a picture, and things like that. It's not mass manufacturing, and it's a custom order. It will not exactly look like the property, but it'll look close enough to where people will want to order these things. And while I feel bad for our international sellers right now, the only thing we can do to stop this from spiraling into a literal second Great Depression is to work during the midterms to get solid, strategic people elected and get our Congress in order. Because they are going to be the only front against this wannabe dictatorship. Right now, even the Supreme Court is trying to toe the line as best they can, but they're heavily slated in the favor of Trump. They're heavily slated in that Project 2025 that we warned you about, that I did several Bonnet Chronicles about, and it felt like I was speaking to a wall. So I am saying this right now as you hear my voice, as you watch me paint, as you see some of the crafts that I will be featuring and stuff on here, to just think. I know people don't want to feel like they're wrong. Nobody wants to feel like they made a bad political choice. Politics is like sports. You want to root for your team and you don't care how much they suck. But this isn't as bad as your team choking at a Super Bowl or the playoffs like my Lions. And I got some helmets coming up for that. I can't wait to print those out and paint those. Hopefully this year we'll get there. Go Lions. But the difference between that and what we're going through now is it's getting dangerous already. They have shown that there is no boundaries to his ridiculous actual witch hunt of immigrants, including that 7-year-old in New York that they literally pulled out of school. And if you can turn a blind eye to a child being mistreated in such a way because you think you're doing it to harm supposed illegal gangs and stuff, you're part of the problem. And I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to the people who are watching this in fear, wondering what we are going to do about this, wondering if we can do something about this, because we don't want this happening in our states. We don't want this happening in our neighborhoods. Oh, I didn't get that support around his waist. I'm glad I didn't start painting that. Oh, wait, no. It changed it up. That's like a belt. Never mind. But as I say, as I continue to work on Axiom Wolf's figure, I am fully planning on coming back. The days that I will be on Twitch will be Tuesdays and Fridays to start. And if I get more time to add to the week, I will. It will generally be around this time because I like to get finished up before Greg gets home from work. And this is the most peaceful time I have. It's right before I have to feed the cats, get dinner ready, and get some other work done. And it's generally just a good time to talk with you guys about things that have been on my mind. And I know that it's not always going to be rants. Because like I said, I went through a lot with putting my mental health first. And while I can't give advice to people, because I'm not licensed to, I'm just somebody who lives with schizoaffective disorder. And I really feel like my experience can help others who are going through that or some of their own forms of illness understand ways to cope with the stress of things. I realize that unlike some people, though, I really can let go of things that I'm not even going to say don't matter to me, but things that I realize don't matter in the long run. Friendships come, friendships go. Enjoying people come, enjoying people go. But in the long run, as long as I keep true to myself and the things that I want to do in this life, I'm not going to be daunted or pushed back by anyone. I was called a lot of things in the blowout of last year. I was told that I lied about my mental health struggles, which I don't have to prove that to anyone. I'm the one living this. I was told that I hate certain demographics, which people want to feel that way about me. I know it's not true, but I'm not going to argue with people who want to push that narrative anymore because it would act like it upsets me, and you can't get upset over lies. All I know is that drama for me is better to watch than be a part of, and I learned that literally the hard way. That it is fun in the long run to just lurk and watch those who I feel aren't problematic, who won't call me things like a danger, who won't try to make it seem like I've done something I know I haven't done, and who won't accuse me of things and then block before they even give me a chance to even talk to them. I learned a lot these last couple of months about the lines that I'm willing to draw with people, especially online and especially in these entertainment spaces that I will utilize for this cast. And I realized that I'm content. August was our 10th anniversary, Axiom Wolf and I. We had a recommitment ceremony. It was really nice. I showed just 2 photos on my social medias, and I'm just happy. And I don't want anything crisscrossing with that. I thought I'd be a home vlogger once. I don't want people in my home. I thought I'd be a commentator for a certain topic. Those people never change. Both of them continue to be awful. There's nothing I can add to make their nonsense seem interesting to me. So I am choosing to move on, to talk about things that I actually enjoy talking about, to put things in perspective for people who are also worrying and wondering, where do we go from here? What I'm not going to do is stress myself over the past or let people who don't know me try to define who I am as a person. And I will say this because I noticed that there is a thing going around, especially on YouTube, about associations and who you associate, you're supporting, things they do and stuff. I don't care about any of that. Anybody I'm subscribed to, anybody I'm a member of, gets my full support, whether other people like them or not. There have been people who have kindly reached out whenever I've posted something to see if I'm okay. And I see you guys and I appreciate you guys. I'm doing a lot better. And I appreciate it when you see the nonsense. Just don't give those people attention. They had to make video after video of me, and they still want somebody to go to rounds with. And that's all that is. All that is somebody who wants my attention that I won't give my attention to. I want them to seethe and speculate about how I'm getting things done because that's all they have. As for me, I'm going to continue to do fun, creative things. I'm going to continue to enjoy 3D printing, crafting, giving my opinion on stuff. I'm just going to continue to live my life the way I want to live it because that's all I can do. The toothpicks really do get to find the details on these things. And I hope that those who enjoy watching this will continue to. And yeah, I know it's not the same format as what I used to do on Twitch. And maybe one day I will feel comfortable enough to be back in my bonnet, ranting and raving. But for now, I am happy like this. With my paints, with the figures, with the chatting about things that I feel affect all of us and will continue to negatively impact us if we ignore it foolishly. But I am about to wrap this hour up. I feel like this was a good test stream. I'm going to get this guy cleaned up, and I will show you the finished product on Friday as we paint another thing. More than likely, one of the things for my friend's birthday that's coming up. He has a bit of an unfortunate birthday. I'm going to move Axiom Wolf for a moment so I can just show one of them, because the other one just finished printing. I created this base for her, and he is a huge One Piece fan. I don't know if any of you know who Perona is, but I've got her pre and post time skips. I'm going to paint her for him and get it ready for a box. I also have some One Piece ships for him. This is the 1,000-piece Sunny, which I believe is their current boat. It is very well detailed. Big hug, HB Daedalus. Thank you. It's good to see you, and I appreciate that. I was saying to Grandmere and them that I will be hitting up friends. If you have an icon that you want 3D printed for giveaways and stuff, let me know. We have the Going Merry here, which is a little bit smaller. As you can see, the details on this ship is just as nice as the 1,000-piece. And once I get the Peronas all support free and done, we're going to paint those for him and surprise him with a birthday, because his birthday, unfortunately, is on the day that most people are in mourning, myself included, being a former New Yorker. So I'm definitely looking forward to cheering him up so that he doesn't think too much about it. But like I said, I'm going to get ready to wrap this up. Thank you so much, Ballad Club, Grandmere, HB Daedalus, for sitting in with me. I will be back on Friday for another hour, maybe two, depending on the topics we cover. Like I said, I got a wide range of stuff that I definitely want to talk about. And if you want to help the channel out, spread the word, then I'm back, which always helps. Once again, here's the links to our books for both Axiom and Terra. Axiom now has its own audiobook on Apple Books as well. And definitely hugs around for everybody. I really appreciate you guys. I'm going to wrap this up, get ready to go feed the cats, start dinner. Well, basically leftovers. We had ribs yesterday for Labor Day. So that's going to be fun. You all take care, and I will definitely see you in a couple of days with some more craft and chat.